Howdy all. Welcome to the AskGolfNut podcast with the Math Nut, episode 5, bit of a Masters edition because it was only yesterday. So did anyone watch it? We'll go into all the topics and questions in a second, talk about a little bit about who won and who should have won. But let's go first of all, say hello, as long as all the technology works, to Andy. Hi Andy.
Hello.
Technology's working. Hoorah. Cool. How's your week been?
Busy, tiring.
Yes, I understand that one. I know. If anyone lucky enough, I've tried to move as many things I could possibly get out of shop because the studio literally looks like an electronic shop has exploded. And there's bits and pieces everywhere. And more on that one in a little bit, because obviously we're going to be talking about the swing robot, etc. But for everyone who wanted to know, I have an updated, hopefully, don't know if that's working or not, probably not, link at the top right-hand side for the Discord. For the people that like Discord, we've got a great community on there. So again, click on that up there. Hopefully that will work. As you can see by the agenda, I'm still impressed myself over that. We are talking about the Masters. Did you watch it or did you not? We've got some interesting other ones, but all cranked irons, if they're bad or not for golf. Does anyone care about OWGR? Again, put it in the old chat. You'll be able to see there. If you know what OWGR is. There you go. And then we are going to talk about the robot. Andy, did you watch the Masters?
No, I was going to be ready to start, but no, I did not.
Well, if it is any help on that one and if you feel a bit better, I only watched the back 9 on Sunday through many different reasons. I was literally just too busy. Andy's back again. For some reason, every single time I flick over the screen, Andy disappears. But no, I didn't. Unfortunately, I was in a situation of where I was just busy doing other things like...
Lima 23 motor bracket.
Yes. Sad, isn't it, really? And then you end up with, okay...
Arduino Uno with CNC sheet.
See what I mean? Terrible. That's as far as I'm going when it comes to all the other stuff around here because I have... the mother of all motors. Yeah, so I've been busy trying to... Well, it is, yes. And I wouldn't say I scared myself, but I've been getting smaller ones for the T system. I will go into the robot later on and how complicated I've made it. Probably too complicated, but there we go. So the Masters, yes. I only watched the final 9 and then I fell asleep before the playoff. So I didn't even see Rory go down the 18th. I fell asleep, I think, just after Rose popped his putt in on the 18th, which was a great putt, if anyone had seen that one. And I think, personally, my own view is that he deserved to win it. Rose deserved to win it. If you looked at his scorecard on the last day, there was hardly a par on it. It was...
But that's the point of multiple rounds, isn't it? It's not like the best guy on the day. It's spread over several days. You can't... Everybody has their miracle round, but does that really mean they deserve to win a tournament?
Well, he had round 1. He was leading, I think, wasn't he, on first day? And then had the normal things that you have throughout the weekend. Did enough on day 1 to get through into the weekend, and then didn't really have a great, obviously, Friday and Saturday, but then 66 on the Sunday, and it was littered. There was hardly a par on it. And so it was a really entertaining watching Rosie play. He could have shot even lower than 66. And of course, if he had done, he would have won. But at the end, Rory won. And let's be honest, I think a lot of people are happy that Rory won. He's done his Grand Slam. He then adds himself to the list of greats.
He was already on the list of greats.
Well, yes. Well, the interesting thing with Rory is that when he first jumped on stage, I can't remember what year it was now. Obviously, he was going to be the next Tiger, and he's done well. Don't get me wrong; he's had a blisteringly lovely career. Most, if not, well, 99.999% of tour pros would love to have Rory's career. But still, we kind of, no different to this, like Sergio's, possibly expected a bit more than actually happened, but he's done exceptionally well.
He gets stronger year after year. I think his time on TaylorMade with Tiger as sort of like the father figure of the TaylorMade group, that I think he's really had an influence on Rory's progression within his own game. I think Rory's so, at the level where he's just learned the wisdom of Tiger and just made his game more consistent.
Yeah, see, it's when you even watch the TaylorMade YouTube channel, where they do have little snippets of wonderfully marketed things, and of course they've got some massive names, haven't they? So they can do. You can see Tiger is there as the father figure. Terrible in front of camera, I must admit. If you listen to him, he's bad. He's, consider how he's like naturally, organically in front of a camera when someone shoves a microphone in his face just after, say, winning or posting whatever score. He's absolutely fine. You put him in an environment where it's pre-scripted and he's standing there and he's a little bit plastic. But
I think he's very good about the golf. I just don't think he's ever, when you ask him questions about the golf, he's answering about the golf. When he's trying to be entertaining, it's just a different field. He just doesn't understand what that is. He just likes talking about and playing golf. So as long as that's the topic, he's fine.
I think Tiger could be really entertaining, but you have to allow him to swear, because Tiger does like the odd swear word here and there, which generally speaking they won't allow. So that's an interesting thing. Do they? I'm not quite sure when it comes to the Masters side of things, but do the players get fined if they swear and it's picked up by the cameras?
I can't see how. That's not their fault necessarily, is it? I'm sure they've got something in their contract that they can't intentionally swear, but if the camera picks up a hot mic or something like that, then that's for the broadcast team to resolve, not the players' team to resolve.
Yeah, so I'm in agreement with you 100% on this one. The fact that I'm not a great fan of saying to any player that they have to monitor, and it's an argument to say that you're playing within, you've got spectators there, you've got children there, and you've got to be mindful, yes. But at the end of this is a major tournament, and they are under some severe stress and pressure. You want to see them react, you want to see them emote. You don't want to control it.
Yeah, and you can't say, oh, you can't swear anywhere on the course, just in case it gets picked up. That would take the emotion out of the game. If they having to think about that rather than just play golf, it's like, no.
Yeah, I agree, and this is why the sort of frustrating thing that I'm going to sort of draw across to, let's say, Formula One. Formula One is something else that I follow, not closely, but I follow it. I'm quite interested in the aerodynamics and all that kind of physics side of things. And was it last week? Albon got fined something like 150,000 euros for swearing whilst driving, complaining about his car. So,
yeah, no. The onboard cameras and the audio feeds are pretty cool, but again, it's like you're diluting the point of the racing. They're not on television to be on television. They're on television because they're in the race, and it's up to the broadcast team to make sure that they.
And like broadcasters, they don't need to be live. It doesn't have to be literally to the second. It can be 10 seconds late. Give them 10 seconds to go, let's press the bleep button, of which they can do very, very quickly nowadays. So yeah, I think keeping it as raw as possible, but yes, for the I guess golf is slightly different because obviously you do have spectators and crowds and lots of them, and so being mindful. I don't think there's an excuse for someone having like a complete meltdown where it's just like beep, 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 something out of Happy Gilmore.
Yeah, I was about to say, going full shoot him, McGavin.
Yes. Excuse me, still croaky after my cold. But right, so really what I should have done is highlight number one, I suppose, talking about, there you go, that's the wrong button. We should be really talking about the Masters and highlighting it. But yeah, I did watch it. I watched the final 9 holes, well, most of them anyway, until I fell asleep. And that's the problem, I suppose, with working many, many hours and at weird times. I'm getting old and I can't make it through the nine hole in the back 9. So what have we got on the chat-aroo? My system, I'm going to have to go by the chat because unfortunately my system for some reason doesn't like any of the feeds. So I'm reading straight off the chat today. Let's go flick it across to here. There we go. So apologies, I'm now scrolling up. So Frank says, do you think it's a stretch to move to Mizuno Pro S3 from a P790 every time I hit them? In store, I strike them very well. I'm definitely a mod handicap player. Don't care about handicap, but all I care about is how well you strike it and if it gives you the forgiveness and playability from where you hit on the face. If you've got every single thing, if it's in the right launch conditions, right spin conditions, everything else, if you hit it well, every single time you hit it.
Yeah, if you're consistent with it, anytime you're consistent with the club, that's a better club for you than something that's more forgiving, because it doesn't have to be forgiving if you're consistent. We know that the S3.
I was going to say, arguably from heel location, S3 is better than the P790.
Very good. Yeah, and as long as you're not a toe striker, the S3 is going to perform very, very well. So,
but there you go. So I'm a great fan of Frank there. Every time he's gone and hit them in store, so it's not just once, it's repeated multiple times.
Yeah, that's always
important. I would take notes as a swing weight, absolutely, because there's something that's gelling very, very well with that golf club. So again, we spoke a little bit about last week, and yes, we are going to have to do a podcast on it completely about the MOI matching rather than swing weight topic, but absolutely, there's something about that setup that you like from the Pro S3, so absolutely, I would say, why not? And for some reason, the S3s are easier to turn over than the P790.
Yeah, I mean by turnover. Well, again, by turnover, I mean you just close the face, right? Is that what we're talking about by turnover? Yeah, it's MOI reduction. MOI resists turning the face over. It's not a huge amount, but the more MOI a club has, the harder it is to close the face.
What we're going to have to do, right, for a bit of fun, we are going to have an MOI counter. So every single time someone says MOI, ding, it pops up.
But I'm always like going to be the one that's like negative point. Like I'm like positive MOI counter and a negative MOI counter, and I'm always going to be on the negative MOI counter.
Yeah, right.
Like so cinema sins.
So we'll have to do that at one point. We just need to see if there's any way that there is a bot that could do it for us. Neil says, is everyone still completely wrecked after the roller coaster journey that was the Masters yesterday? It was a bit of an up and down, especially Rory. Rory done his best at not to win it. He was ahead by what, 4 at the turn? Was it 4?
Yeah, I don't know. It's not a lot. I mean, you mentally know that's not a lot. That's 2 bad holes and you're out of it, and that'll weigh on anybody's mind. I don't care. I don't care who you are. And, the minute you start thinking about, I've only got 4 shots, that's when those 4 shots suddenly disappear.
I did not understand some of the shots he played yesterday. 13, I think he laid up. Fair enough, absolutely, I get that. And then his wedge onto the green, of which never made it there and went straight into the creek, basically bounced off the bank and into the creek. I'm thinking of all of the places. Even if he bogeyed that hole, it wouldn't have been a bad thing. But the fact that he just put himself in a situation just to double it or worse or anything else, like he could just chipped on anywhere on the green and just tried to 2-putt. But there you go. One of those things. Easy said than done. I'm not standing there with the pressure of winning the Grand Slam. So there you go. Aura says, is JPX 925 Hot Metal Pro still the most forgiving iron in the market? you're going to have to go to www.askgolfnut.com for that one. The bronze tier will give you access to all the heat maps, so you can compare all the 70 plus irons we have now in the database. If you really want to know the ins and outs with duck's backside as to how the golf clubs perform comparatively in these sectors, say toe, heel, low, overall forgiveness, launch factor, face spin rates, etc., then you're going to have to go to the silver tier. That will give you that advanced data, and also the radar charts that can compare visually the differences between all the irons. And of course, if you want to see how they work for your swing and your swing characteristics, that is the gold tier. That is the self-fit tool. That is an amazing tool. I don't want to say any more because I don't want to make the person who created it any happier than he currently is. And it is a wondrous way of visualizing the flights and the comparative flights of the irons for your particular swing dynamics. I thought I explained that quite well. So you'll have to go there to see. Excuse me. Neil says, new Mizuno hoodie. Very discreet by Mizuno stands. What do you think? This is one of the hoodies that, have I got on the back? I can't remember. This is one of the hoodies that the wife said, oh, I don't mind that. And that is high praise when it comes to the wife. The wife, generally speaking, does not like my Mizuno attire. And so any time that I get something which that's not hideous is a win. But it is, I really like it. So this is, I don't know if it's actually a part of the Spring Summer 25 collection, but it's really warm. And it's 19.7 degrees in here, so I'm not quite sure how long this will last, but there you go. I like the warmth. So Darren says, has tantalum ever been used in irons? I
mean, it's very dense, but it's also very expensive. It's 10 times more expensive than tungsten.
Yeah, I'm guessing not. Unobtainium, I'm assuming also hasn't. But no, I'm guessing no, unless we are talking about Callaway in 2026 when they have another version of doing the most ridiculous, I'm going to stick whatever I want and I'm going to charge it at £1,000 an iron or something crazy. That's the only time I think that tantalum would actually ever be used. Tony says, how forgiving are the Mizuno Forged 925 irons? For a player's distance iron, and Andy, correct me from your point of view if you don't agree with my choice of categorization for the 925 Forged, but they are exceptionally good.
Yeah, it's hard to say which bucket it belongs into, because you could almost argue it's almost a cavity back, but then it's also borderline on a game improvement iron. It doesn't really fit any of the standard molds, and I think that's kind of why it's a standout iron. It's not trying to be one of those things. It's just trying to be a good iron, which it is.
So, okay, so from a player's distance category, what would you say denotes player's distance iron from an aesthetics point of view for its category and its performance with its loft, etc.?
Well, to be a player's distance iron, it pretty much has to be forged.
Right
at the bat, it has to be forged. Otherwise, you know the players aren't going to like it. It needs to have the loft range in the stronger end of the loft range. So, 32 to 30 degrees. My cat is always yelling at me. 32 to 30 degrees, and and then it's got to have the CG placement. Usually, in order to get a forged iron that has the lower CG, you have to throw some tungsten at it, and obviously that increases the price of the iron.
Yeah. So from my point of view, player's distance, loft has a point. Fairly strong lofted. It has to have certain aesthetics, so it makes the players want to play it as an option as a bridging iron. Again, you can't call the JPX 925 Forged a player's distance iron in its raw state, because you wouldn't get a 241 user potentially go to the 925 Forged, but you would the 245. But if you were in that category, you'd hear the classic, I'm going to get fit, I'm going to test the 925 Forge, but I want to see if I'm good enough for the Pro 245s. That's what you'd hear. But effectively, they are interswappable.
I would I wouldn't say that the 925 is even like the Forge 925 is. If you need the 925 Forge, you don't want to be looking at a 245 as an option. I think the 245 is a different realm of iron. It's for the better player who is slower, whereas the 925 Forge. Distance. Yeah, it's in the 925 Forge is more of like the person who wants the forgeness but still needs almost like game improvement technology.
Yep. The thing is, I personally feel that now the 925 Forge is out, it's now kind of really put Mizuno into an interesting position, because the 245, apart from its looks, and it is just apart from its looks because it looks like a fat blade, there is now kind of no reason why if you take looks out the equation, people should be playing the 925 Forged. If you want, though, an iron which performs differently to the 241 and the player's distance, then you have to obviously go 245. And there are benefits to the 245 over 241 in certain aspects, depending on what you need. It's an interesting one.
I mean, are we skirting around the S3 rest of the lineup conversation?
We're not allowed to say anything necessarily about anything which is coming up potentially.
Yeah, I don't know. I think Mizuno have been like stretching their product line, and I think they've got. I mean, look at the JPX line, right? High Launch, Hot Metal Pro, Forged.
Yeah.
I don't think that those all four will exist come next refresh. I don't see it. I don't see the difference. Like, is the price point on the Forge that much different than the Pro?
It is cheaper. The Pro 245 is the single most expensive iron in their range.
Not the Pro 245, the Hot Metal Pro.
Oh, sorry. The JPX 95 Hot Metal Pro against, say, the Forge.
The 95. Yeah.
I think, if I remember, it's either exactly the same or it's £10 per iron cheaper trade.
Right. Which it's kind of makes the in this case the Pro kind of like the why would you kind of thing. I don't think the performance between the Forged and the Pro is different enough to say, we need two different irons in that space.
Yeah. Apart from it's Forged and it is slightly sleeker, and it will attract slightly different golfer, especially golfers that have been fed certain information.
Yeah, but I think there's just not enough disparity between the two, and you put the Pro tag on the Hot Metal, but it's not really that much proer than the Hot Metal. But this would the Forge should be if you make the Forge the Pro, and then just get rid of the existing Pro, I think you've got a perfect lineup then for the JPX line.
Do you know what? I think it's slightly different. I'd get rid of the Hot Metal and have the Pro. Because the Hot Metal
That's
Pro
true. I mean, the Hot Metal doesn't do anything that the Pro doesn't do. Yeah, I mean, whatever. I'm just saying so the Pro and the Hot Metal are the same loft. All the difference is the size difference, isn't it? It's the same loft. Yeah. It's the same basic package. So, and it doesn't, as long as, get rid of the Hot Metal, make the Pro the Hot Metal, and then just leave the Forged as the Pro, and then you're good to go.
Yeah, and of course we are going to be seeing differences in their in the Pro lineup, as in the MP, very, very soon. Of course, I'm not allowed to say anything about what's coming because everything is embargoed still, etc. But as soon as there is any form of leaks, that I am allowed to sneak out there, then effectively, from my point of view, as soon as possibly the Open, which is normally July-ish, around that way, there's normally the sneak peek of certain things. because you'll get them at the range, and then people with cameras will go along and pick something up, and then it will be leaked on there. And as soon as something is leaked, even if it's not officially been reported by Mizuno, as far as I'm concerned, I'm not doing anything different. All I'm then doing is reporting on something which someone else has already done. So I'm skirting the lines, but then I'll be able to say a little bit more. But there you go. So, DG says, do you think Bryson playing 3-round golf affect his last day performance, or has he just had one of those days? He just had one of those days. He had everything. I mean, guys, look, guys and girls that are watching, you're all golfers. Well, if not, you wouldn't be watching this, because you're not going to be watching this for just my and Andy's amazing personalities. But for me, everyone's played golf long enough to know that, do you know what? You don't play golf exactly the same on every single day. And you could play really well today and like a sack of rubbish tomorrow. And it's just the way it goes. You can't help it. There's no rhyme or reason. There's no sense to understand. I had the same feels. It's just golf.
It's just a sport of infinitesimal differences. Like your strike being even fractionally off, it can ruin your whole day. So to be consistently good at golf doesn't exist. I mean, there isn't. I don't think there's been many pros that have been consistently good throughout the whole career. They have hot spells, they have cold spells, they have hot spells. Usually, if they have the really hot spells, they'll usually have the really cold spells. And that's
they do that. They do that within the same tournament. I mean, look at Justin Rose. Justin Rose is a perfect example of just human beings playing golf. He started off and he was leading after day one, and then he had 2 mediocre days, and he shot over par, and then come back with a 66 on the last day, on the final day. It's just like one of those things. So, yeah, it's just, and he had the lefts. On that day, he had the lefts. Now, unfortunately, Bryson, he had the lefts, but he didn't have the lefts all the time. They were interspersed with normal shots, and the problem with that is, if you've got lefts every single shot, you can account for that to a certain extent. If you've got lefts not consistently around Augusta, there's certain places where you can't miss. Yes, was it 11? I can't remember if it was 11 when he dumped it in the water. I can't remember, I think it was. And obviously 11, you've got water on the left-hand side. You've got all the room in the world on the right. And knowing you had left issues, would you have aimed where he aimed? Probably not. I mean, this is the argument he'll have probably with himself, or he may not do. He may completely ignore it and just say, look, I tried my best, I did my best. There's no point in torturing myself now after the event. It doesn't do any good whatsoever. Learn from mistakes, of course, if you felt you made them. But if he played golf to how he felt he played or should play golf, well then, better luck next time. That's all you can say. Right, so, second.
Topic 2?
Yeah, definitely. Just looking at the, yeah, cool, we'll get them afterwards. So, are cranked irons bad for golf? The only issue I have with cranked irons, really, are from a gapping perspective. Because not all cranked irons are the same. So you do have cranked irons that have different spreads of pitching wedges to the 7 irons. So let's just, for example, let's say all cranked, super cranked 7 irons are now 27 degrees, whatever they are, yeah? There are different manufacturers out there that run their gaps between their 7 to their pitching wedge, and their pitching wedge at a different number. Some are weaker than others, some have got bigger gaps than others. Some have got smaller gaps, so they have to then add in a gap wedge, a specific gap wedge to the set. So the only issue I have with cranked irons, and we'll get into the reasons why cranked irons are actually good in their design, is the gapping. For fast swing speed golfers, for slow swing speed and medium swing speed golfer, just ignore it, because the gapping between irons aren't big enough to even the bigger ones aren't big enough to necessitate an issue. It's only very, very fast swing speed on those selection of cranked irons which do have big loft gaps between irons. Andy, what's your science, physics side of things perspective?
So I'm just going to follow up where you were at then, just so I don't forget it later. And I think what needs to be done is that we're still putting the cranked 7-iron in a 7-iron length shaft. Now, if you put the cranked 7-iron in an 8-iron length shaft, that eliminates the gapping problem, because now your pitching wedge is going to be shorter. The thing about crank loft irons that people don't realize is that most of the good crank loft irons don't play like the loft that's on them. They play like the loft that's 2 or 3 degrees higher, but give you all the benefits of the stronger loft. And
because their launch factors.
There are irons that have been made that just lowered the loft, but they didn't change the technology, and then those are ground skimmers. But things like the 25 Cobra Tech irons, the DS Adapt irons, even from a few years ago, the Cobra Aerojets that now we've put the data set up on the website, they have the highest launch factor ever seen by quite a bit.
Yeah.
And that's why they were such a good iron. It might be static loft 26 degrees, but it plays like it's a 30-degree iron.
Yeah.
But gives you the speed.
Incredible how it gets up in the air.
Gives you the speed of a 26 iron, but the flight of a 30-degree iron. Now, that's a win-win. There's just nothing, you can't say anything about it. That's a win-win. And the only downside of...
I was going to say, I'm going to sit on the fence and you're going to have to sort of, I'm going to play devil's advocate, because I'm just going to say it, just in case someone doesn't say it in the chat. But what about the low spin, Andy?
Spin is a relic of golf mentality. Spin rates were a band-aid to irons that launched super low because of old forging or construction technology.
Yeah,
the CGs were level with the ball. The physics says the ball wants to go horizontal. The only reason it goes up at all is through gear effect and twisting of the face. And that's the only reason it went up. So because of that relatively low, shallow launch angle, spin was needed to get the ball to rise up.
Climb. Yeah.
But now you've got irons that are launching higher than 34-degree old school irons, but giving the speed of a 26-degree iron. Spin no longer matters. It's going to get up there no matter what, because it's going fast enough. And once you get there, descent angle is the key to stopping. It's not spin. Spin doesn't do much. The first bounce, the spin isn't doing anything. It might grip a little bit, but it's next to nothing in terms of the big equation. So
yeah, and this is the thing, is where people think that spin is the thing, and if you've got a golf ball with 10,000 RPM of spin, if it's coming in quite shallow, the spin's not going to do anything whatsoever. It is just going to skip out the back. And the great thing with the cranked iron idea is if they get the technology right, the CG location right, and you do get that advantage in that higher launch factor, you're getting commonly a very fast face speed that you're going to get with a cranked iron, the ball speed from it, the launch angle from an iron, it plays like an iron one less than that. It plays like an 8-iron, not a 7-iron in its launch. You're just going to get the best from multiple worlds. Your launch, speed, peak height because of that. Spin, I only care about spin for a consistency point of view. If you've got spin numbers jumping around 2,000-3,000 between shots, your flight's going to be different, doesn't matter. But it's the consistency of the spin which is far more important than the amount of it.
And what's interesting about higher CG is potentially more susceptible to spin variation, because gear effect is controlled by face friction. So if the friction's compromised at all, when there's more gear effect, and that gear effect is compromised due to friction change, your spin is going to change more dramatically. But whereas the CG is lower and it's less gear effect, it's more consistent. It might not be as high, but it should be more consistent. There are breaks to every rule, obviously, but
it will be interesting to see how it changes as time goes on.
I think like the only thing is the size argument. People say, oh yeah, these are chunky, fat old irons. Yeah, they are, but if you're playing them because you're not very good at golf, that's not your concern. Your concern should be getting the ball closer to the hole, and then when you get better, then maybe.
It's a whole argument about the DS Max, the DS Adapt Max iron. If you take away what it looks like away from the equation completely, and you just go by its performance and how it works, it's a really, really good iron. The problem is it's one of the most fuggliest irons out there, and people don't like it.
We're talking about like 11, right? And like some of the senior pros playing whole bags of hybrids, right? And obviously a hybrid is an ugly iron. it's an
As
ugly
irons
iron.
go, it's the ugliest.
Yeah. So like it seems more like people would be more likely to play a whole bag of hybrids than to play ugly irons, which confuses me.
Yes.
And the DS Adapt, honestly, has all the benefits of a hybrid and looks like an iron.
Yeah, you see, the thing is with obviously the roll and bulge that you get from a hybrid and the MOI argument. And I know we could go on to the MOI thing, and we'll probably touch on this one now, and then we'll touch on it again when we talk about the robot later on. But the fixation with MOI on an iron, I can understand to a certain extent, obviously with driver is, there's a certain amount of logic to MOI, absolutely. In an iron though, it could be as damaging as anything else. It could actually make the iron work worse.
Yeah.
So
I spent a day doing the math behind it and looking at it, and at least, and actually a high MOI iron will hurt the slow swing speed golfer, and why that is a launch factor comes partly from the twisting of the face at impacts. That's why low CG irons launch higher, because of the twisting of the face. Just like if you hit the toe, it twists the face, and that's why high MOI helps, in theory, when you miss toe or heel, because it stops the face from twisting as much. But if a high MOI stops the face from twisting, that means it stops the iron from launching higher. So if you've got a slow swing speed and need the ball to get higher, high MOI is actually undoing anything. All the changes of low CG, the higher loft, it's undoing all of that by reducing the twisting of the launch angle.
So let's just say the Aerojet, for example, one of, if not the highest launching ever, and you get the center of gravity of that head, which is clearly very, very low, clearly. But now you pull that CG now further away from the head. You bring it back, not just as low, but you bring it away from the face to make it a higher MOI iron, more stable from a miss-hit point of view, from toe heel, arguably. However, that will now not perform like it now does from a launch factor point of view. Launch factor, getting the golf ball launching, get the golf ball going up in the air is so important for the slow swing speed golfer that doesn't have raw ball speed to just bludgeon that golf ball at whatever launch angle they want. They have to rely on getting that golf ball like a javelin thrower throws a javelin. It doesn't just throw it, or he or she doesn't just throw it at that. He or she launches it at a specific angle to try and loop it the longest distance possible. This is what is so important when it comes to a slow swing speed golfer. You pull that MOI further away, it doesn't launch as much, you don't get that twisting vertically, it hurts the slow swing speed golfer.
Yeah. So high MOI only helps people who miss dramatically toe and heel. if you miss toe and heel, then higher MOI is going to straighten your shots out. But if your miss is generally toe or your miss is generally heel, high MOI isn't necessarily going to help that either, because you're better off finding a club that suits that miss than picking one that's got high MOI to cope with both misses. So
again, it goes back to the same argument when it comes to high MOI with anything with a curved face. Because as soon as you pull that center of gravity further back, you have to have a completely different face curvature profile. And if you don't get the right face curvature profile, some people need that extra movement to get the golf ball gearing back to target. And again, if you don't have it right, you can actually get a golf club that doesn't work.
And that face shape
really
is also
forgiving.
And that face shape is also dependent on speed. The slower you swing, the less spin you put on the ball, the less curvature it has, or the more curvature it needs to have. So it's not just, that amount of curve fits that center of gravity. It's that much curve fits that center of gravity for that much speed. So
because the ball stays in the air longer.
You're better off not having that rearward MOI and just fixing the club parameters some other way.
Interesting. So, what have we got very, very quickly? Neil was talking to DG about Bryson hitting over 1,000 balls on the practice tee. That is a lot of balls.
Yeah.
That is a lot of balls.
I don't care how fit you are. That's got to hurt your muscles.
Yeah, I mean, I obviously at the moment, I'm trying to stay clear from hitting at all. Good news is my knee is feeling better at the moment. I haven't hit balls for a little bit. I did obviously last week, I did the 4 driver videos for the Cobra, DS Adapt Max K, Max D, LS and X, and it hurt after that. And I haven't hit a golf ball since. So I'm trying to manage that. And of course, we have the update on the swing robot to come. But Eero says, Andy, this may be for you since Jay is shaft agnostic. Did you see any of the Golf Monthly podcasts where Joe the Pro built a Bryson putter with the head he uses and he went to a KPS shaft? Said it changed the feel of the putter. Thoughts? Andy?
I mean, it's feel. Anytime you're talking about feel, like I don't know, do you? Maybe it felt different for him.
It will feel. It's gonna. Yeah, I mean, how that translates into how someone will use it and how someone performs with it will have equal amounts of good and bad depending on the individual you speak to or the individual you happen to pull out at random and test it. You get 100 people and they are all going to have their own specific likes, dislikes, how they have their setup, etc. And you give them anything different, some people will gravitate to that more from a I don't care, from a I get on with it quite well, or I hate it completely, and you're going to get that spectrum. And depends on where you are on that spectrum to start with, as to what kind of feedback you're going to give.
Yeah. So I mean, on a putter, I can't imagine the shaft profiles are not gonna be noticeable on a putter. You're just not, there's not enough load there. But weighting
you can feel
of all.
Go on.
Yeah, I mean the tactile feel at impact might be different because the shaft might be different wall thickness, different slightly different metal alloy, and that's going to transmit the impact feel differently. But in terms of loading, unloading, or all that jazz, there's nothing going to happen there. No. But the shaft balance point is more critical than anything else because putting's all about the pendulum motion, right? And however fast you draw your hands back, the putter has to want to respond at that frequency. If you pull your hands back faster than the putter wants to move, it's going to fight you. And that, obviously, if the putter's fighting you, that's going to make you less likely to swing it on the plane that you want. So, the feel, the weighting to the putter is way more important than anything else.
And this is the thing with putting. I know from your point of view, Andy, putting is one of your strengths. You're a good putter. From my point of view, when it comes to custom fitting and coaching side of putting is a really interesting. It takes the the nuance of coaching the full swing to a whole new level. So when you have one person with a swing fault, whatever that fault is, that's their swing fault. You ask 10 different coaches, you are going to get 10 different ways of fixing that problem, because they've all got their own opinion about how is the best way to do it. And I've said this before, it's like no different, there is so many different ways to get from place A to place B on a map, so many different roads you can go to. The whole idea is you're going to get to that destination however long it will take. When you talk putting is so built around feel and how the golfer responds to the feel of something. It's really difficult to say anything particularly absolutely statically, yes, this will suit this type of person and that will suit that type of person. It's no different to the heavy putters. The heavy putters themselves, the real heavy putters, some people, Andy said earlier on about the fact that they want to pull the putter away, and because it's got so much inertia, it's so heavy, it fights them. It doesn't, and they are seen as really very good, these heavy putters, and they are, but only for the people that need them. And
yeah. I think the difference between a full swing and the putter swing is that gravity is such a large component of the putter swing. You're manipulating with muscles the putter so far less than a full swing. You know, you're on a full swing, your muscles are controlling a lot of the things. You're driving the path of the club head. Whereas on a putter, gravity, once you're back, gravity is the main factor. If you're manipulating your muscles to manipulate the head on the way down, you're never going to be consistent on putting. The putter almost has to free flow back to the ball to have a consistent strike.
So if you were to measure a full swing, even did different parallels, you can't obviously go too far because a putt shouldn't go anywhere near that far back. But if you take the full swing on a similar amount of swing to a long putt, and you measure the release rates, the degrees per second rotation of an iron, let's call it an iron, not even driver, let's just call it an iron, and how much rotation that golf face goes through in the same passage of distance that you'll swing the putter on a long putt, it's crazy high compared to the putter. The putter goes through relatively such a tiny amount of rotation relative to the iron. You should not be manipulating face angle when it comes to a putt. Gravity or the pendulum action should be the predominant mover of the putter head. If you are moving it like that, then you need a lesson. Definitely. Right, we'll go to the next one. So anyone, have they popped into the chat? So I am going to add on to topic 3 now, and someone is going to have to tell me, does anyone care about the OWGR? So pop in the chat and see if the first person can come up with what is the OWGR. And then we'll talk about it. Because you did say to me, what is that? And I said, and you didn't reply, but you're probably thinking, oh, right, I don't care. But we'll chat about other bits and pieces whilst I'm getting a message back to see if everyone is going to put their answer on the chopping block. So Hero said, seems like the JPX forged HL and pick one between Hot Metal and Hot Rate Pro. Those two seem redundant. The interesting thing is the HL is based on a lighter setup, as most HLs and everything else. So if you go Ping, no different. Their high launch head is quite considerably lighter in its mass. You then combo that with an ultra light shaft, and it's no different to the drivers. The drivers, again, ultra light head, and the back weight on a Ping HL driver is much lighter, and blah, blah, blah. And so effectively they are different, or they're supposed to be different in themselves. So the HL stays there, absolutely. I would personally get rid of the Hot Metal and keep the Hot Metal Pro, unless the only reason why the Hot Metal is there is because some people love the real estate. Some people love the confidence-inspiring looks of having something just massive down by the golf ball. Now, Well, HL's biggest, but different golf club. And so personally, I'd get rid of the hot metal, but again, I can understand why it's there, because some people do like real estate. That's why they make so many, to appease as many people as possible. Right, so name withdrawn, has got it. Official golf world ranking, or it should say official world golf ranking. Or, yeah. Well, it could be OGWR. We could read it whichever we want. But yes, exactly that. Who cares about it? I can remember a time. Go on, Andy, do you care in the slightest about the official world rankings?
I mean, it's not just in golf. There's a lot of things that use world rankings to kind of, show who's the most consistent, I guess. Because theoretically, if you're the most consistent, you're going to have the highest ranking, or at least, to a degree, you'd have the highest ranking. If you're in the top 5 all the time, you're going to be doing better than guys first and versus who's 20th another tournament. But I think that, like with a lot of things where big statistics come into play, is that it becomes diluted in terms of a lot of things. But
I, from my point of view, so many years ago, I'm talking in the Tiger days. The golf rankings were, everyone was talking about the rankings, how far ahead he was, how many points ahead he was, and now Tiger obviously always was someone who hardly even ever played the minimum number. So he was always penalised on his world golf ranking, because the minimum number for the world golf rankings, I think it's still exactly the same. I think it's 40 events within a 2-year period. The problem is Tiger didn't play 20 events a year. And so he was always penalised because his advisor, was 40 and he only had 37, 36 events played. But he was still way ahead of everybody. And of course, everyone spoke about that. And then as Tiger kind of went away with injuries and stuff, and of course, everyone then taking their turn, as they did when it comes to world number 1. And then Live happened. And as soon as Live happened, with X amount of good players going across, the world rankings just kind of went out the window a little bit, because a lot of the very, very high ranked players weren't playing anymore from a world golf ranking points system. And it then became a bit daft even measuring it, because what are you measuring? You're not measuring apples for apples anymore because of that issue.
But that's the whole point of the ranking, though, is to not measure apples to apples. It's kind of like the whole point of aggregated statistics is to analyze oranges to apples. That if they've played 5 tournaments, this guy's played 7, but overall this guy had a better average score than this guy, and it's kind of like the ranking should be independent of what league they play in, but.
Yeah, well, they're still, so within the official world golf rankings, they are weighted. So you'll have certain tournaments are weighted a certain amount. Obviously, the majors have got the biggest weighting and stuff like that.
I mean, that's what scoring par is supposed to be all about already. The par is supposed to take course weighting into effect.
Yeah, I suppose from a official world rankings point of view, they feel that with the pressure and of the major scene, that effectively people who play better in majors, no different to the World Golf Championships, even like the match play and stuff like that, and the likes of Sawgrass players, that side of things, deserved a higher. And of course, that's why Tiger did so well, because within very few exceptions, Tiger only really played the big events, the high purse events. And so of course, when he done well, he got a lot of money and he got a lot of points. So you're not silly, but and this is emulated as well. This is mirrored in tennis, no different, exactly the same thing. So you won't find, you'll find the journeyman tennis pros that will be playing seemingly every week. And then you've got obviously the top echelon, and they will cherry pick, because obviously they're trying to pick on the biggest bang for their buck as such when it comes to not burning their bodies out, of which happens a lot more in tennis than it ever does in golf. It's the great thing with golf. Generally speaking, you can go well into your 50s and 60s, and of course, as soon as you've stopped winning on the PGA Tour and you reach that magic 50, that you can then move over and win again, briefly. But there you go. So this is my issue with the world golf ranking. Does anyone care about it anymore? Because I hear nothing spoken about it now. Nothing. See, no one cares.
You're only as good as your last tournament in most cases.
Yep. It's an interesting one. With the world golf rankings, whether it was absolutely such a measure of how good someone was relative to everyone else in the world, with the now live happening and everyone's segregated and it's just a mess. The world golf rank system is just not fit for purpose now, unfortunately. Personally, I think. And Eero says no one likes live. I'm indifferent. I'm in the middle. I can see it both ways. I don't mind anything that could potentially get golf spoken about in a different light, if it was going to attract more people and if it was done in a better way than unfortunately it has been currently. At the moment, live was there, and live was created and sold on the basis of something directly competing with the PGA Tour. That was the biggest issue. Rather than working with the tours, it was something out there to be pushed as, come to our tour, come away from the PGA Tour, we're going to be taking over because we've got loads of money, blah, blah, blah. And this is the problem. It shouldn't have been marketed or constructed in the way that it was. And if it was done a different way to start with, potentially it would have been so much better. Liv is lucky that Bryson keeps them relevant. It's an interesting thing with Bryson, because obviously Bryson doesn't need money at all. And it's really interesting to see why Bryson, I don't know, it'd be interesting to have like an interview with Bryson to really drill down to his motivations to moving, and from a responsibility point of view, does he feel a responsibility to golf and people's going to come after him? I don't know. It's an interesting topic.
It's like a lot of leagues or tours or whatever. The money's always an issue because they tend to put a huge amount into the top prize, and then the people who are grinding in 32nd place are getting next to nothing, and then it's them that struggle. It's not the guys winning the tournaments that ever really struggle. It's the guys coming in the who get to play the final day, but the chances are they're coming in last on the final day. Those are the ones that really put all the time and effort in for very little payback. And these are the guys that aren't living on big name sponsorships. They're living on tournament winnings, and Liv I'm sure Liv didn't really help those guys. It just helped the big names get even more money for the most part.
Well, see, the whole construct of Liv, I could understand it from a journeyman pro's point of view. If you're a journeyman pro and you're teetering around the 125 every single year, and you're dangerously close to going to Q school every single year, dangerously close to losing your card every single year, and you're talking about you're not making the crazy money. And of course, anyone who's still getting to the 125 is still earning decent money. Yes, they are, if you look at their earnings for that year. But their outgoings as well are massive. People don't understand, they don't truly understand what the expenses, we'll call it, from a business point of view. You may be earning a certain amount of money, but their expenses are massive. are massive, massive. So they're not earning as much as what people think, or they're not profiteering as such.
They've only got a limited lifetime. You know, it's not like this. It's like any sport. You know, you have to make enough money in the 10, 15 years that you're in that window to make it the rest of your life. You can't devote your 20s and 30s to something that's is no longer viable at 40, and you know, you got 40 years.
Can understand if they are that person, always teetering around the 125, worried about if they're going to make it next year and stuff like that. Well, if you were approached by someone from Liv and said that here's $40 million for the next 3 years, and the interesting thing, it is not like you're asking the player to lie, to break their integrity and not be honest in any way. It's purely come to our league and we'll give you 40 million for the next 3 years. Okay. I don't necessarily see the issue with that. The problem I can see would be, obviously, when you're talking about the crazy money that they offer the big boys for going over. And yes, it is the big boys going over, those ones which generated the revenue because few views. It does have a follow-on effect, obviously. Yes, it does, because the Corn Ferry that flows through and stuff like that. And of course, when people have different aspirations, rather than going to the best tour on the planet, they now potentially see another tour as an option, a quick winning option. Yes, it's a multifaceted argument, I know, but I think it's different from a 125er than it is from a top 10. That's my view on Liv anyway. Andy says, I'd like to announce the AGN Senior Distance Iron SDI coming to a golf shop near you, 2022. We are actually naming it the SDI, are we?
I don't know.
Now, it would be cool if we could get a picture up. We did have an AI generated one, didn't we?
Yeah, but look at anything like the iron's actually going to look.
It's not happening yet. But it might well happen. And I think Andy's right. It may well be in 2032. And it very may well be that it might happen sooner than that, as long as Andy can do like one part, as in basically give all the instructions, give all the math and saying this is exactly how it needs to be done. And as long as someone else fabricates it, as long as someone does that, there's a business proposition there. I'm not getting involved. I struggle to fabricate things like this when it comes to the swing robot. So when it comes to anything else, I'm not getting involved in creating an iron. Although the SDI, interesting. Going back to that very topic we were talking about earlier about MOI, etc. But we won't say anything else until Andy wants to talk about it more. And of course, he can talk about more if he wants to. No, cool. Right. So, swing robot, how's it going? Well, it's going from a point of view, if I look behind me and I see littered, there is a lot. There's a lot of stuff. And everything seems to be rather big and rather, yeah. I'll just go get, one thing did arrive today. I'll see if I can get this without hurting my hands, because it's, I have to move the motor, the big one. That's every bit as big as it actually is. This thing is just a holder for the motor.
That's not a good look.
No, it's massive. This is just a holder for the motor, the main motor for the swing robot. Aluminium There you go. If you compare that to this little thing.
That's usually what most people use their new 23s and the
Yes.
workhorse motor.
Yeah, this little thing, it is rather different. So what I'll do, has my thing come off? No, or is it? Yeah, no, that's right, it's my other one. Oh, that's what I'm just paranoid about, all my microphones coming off. Right, so now I am making this robot a little bit more complicated than I possibly need to. This, as you can see, is a linear rail, motor on the end, and when I ask it to move, it moves this little rail this way and this way. If you mount one 90 degrees to that, so one like this and then one like that, you can now have the T system that moves front and back this way. And of course, then I have a scissor Z lift as such, which moves the T up and down in the Z axis or Z axis, depending on where you are in the world. And so I'm making this a little bit more complicated than, well, even commercial grade ones, because Andy, how do commercial grade ones do it?
Manually. Little crank wheels.
Yeah, they basically just get, they get it set up, and then on the end of the robot is a wheel. They go, like that. That's what basically they do. I wanted to make mine a little bit more, less that, more that. So I can do everything all in one. So the whole idea, at the very end of this journey, once it works, is to, if I can get some form of ball reloading thing, would be I could then set the robot to a program, hit 5 out the middle, and of course with the movable T, I can just move, they tell the computer program, hit 5 out the middle, move X amount of millimeters in one direction, hit another 5, another direction, hit another 5, so we can map all that. That can be done completely by itself, by the computer program. That can only be done if I've got that and not that. Trying to take me out of the equation. At the moment, once it's all going, I will still have to put a ball on the tee and then come back to the computer and go like that. But the good thing about me being at the computer and going like that is I'm out the way, because I got this thing going yesterday, and it's rather big, and the noise it makes, it's rather powerful.
You kept saying go big or go home.
Yeah.
And then you went, oh, I'm going full size. And I was scared of it.
I don't believe, I don't, because I haven't ever seen anything else online bigger than a NEMA 52, 60 Newton meter one. I haven't seen anything bigger than that. There probably are, and I want to know what purpose it would ever be used for, but it's the biggest one I could get. And it's big.
Did the grip clamp come yet?
Did the
grip clamp? The shaft clamp?
Yes. Yes, it did. This come from America. So effectively, I'll tell you what, I'll do it. Come at me here.
Did you test it?
Oh, I put a grip in it.
Yeah.
So it works. So on the big motor, on the end is basically, that's a 25 millimeter hole. Yeah, that's how big the shaft is of that motor. And of course you've got your grub screws in, that holds it on there. And of course then this clamps onto that, like that, yeah? And then that goes on the motor. And then this goes on the other side onto like that and sits there in kind of like that. And then what you end up doing is you end up put a golf club in there, adjust it with your little knobs, and then go, that's your quick release. See, like that. That's the whole concept. So yeah, I've got to, obviously I've cut the holes for that. Yeah. but I need the bolts. So tomorrow I have a long list of bolts and nuts and bolts and nuts and bolts and nuts and bolts that I need to get everything. And of course there is the other thing I need to sort out, which is the Z scissor lift. The scissor lift, which basically you turn the screw and the scissor platform goes bigger and goes smaller. And it's one of those precise ones, so you can get it down to the 10th of a millimeter, should you wish. We won't need to worry about that. But trying to get a motor to connect to that is not necessarily the easiest thing, and so I'm having to come up with an idea. That's the whole fun about doing this idea with the swing robot. It's not like you can go down to your local any store and say, can I have a swing robot please? You have to basically try and design something and make it work. Yeah.
I'd like a swing robot shaft clamp, please.
Yeah. And it's got to go to this and it's got to fix to that, and they'll look at you, go, what? And then, yeah, so that's effectively what I'm doing at the moment. What's caused me the biggest problem more than anything else is the T system. I can understand why Bob does this, because trying to do it, so getting everything to move all in one, and then obviously the quad's got to be on the same framework as well, and yeah, but it's going well. What is S1 site? Is it Sightsnum? I'm going for a club fitting tomorrow, looking to change irons, have Callaway Paradigm irons, which aren't old. Have gone from an 18 to a 13 in 3 months. What club would you suggest? I like the Mizuno 245, so sure. Well, personally, I'd suggest keeping the Callaway Paradigm irons if you've gone from an 18 to a 13. Unless there is, from a custom fitting point of view, unless there's a tangible win for you going to another set of irons, it has to be a tangible gain. I would always say in a fitting, why are we changing? Unless you want something shiny, then that's possible. The 245s are very nice looking. They are. Ow, whacked my knee. Where are they? They're around here somewhere. No, that's a blade. There's the 245.
Yeah, no, it has to be mobile because we have to move it around the studio anyway, so it'll be mobile. I don't know about getting it outside, but it's definitely mobile.
Are we talking about the robot again? I walked away.
Yeah, somebody has to see it outdoors, and then they asked plans to make it mobile.
No.
Yes, it's mobile. I don't know if you better take it outside.
It's not. Oh, come here, you stupid thing.
What do you mean it's not?
I'm not taking it outside. I'm not. I'm not.
Oh, I thought you meant it's not mobile. I was about to say you're in trouble if it's not mobile.
It will slide across the floor. 245. Still a good-looking iron. Still a very good-looking iron. Could have been better if they'd only chromed it. There you go. That's my opinion. But the paradigms. I don't think we've got enough data on that for legacy data, have we, on the paradigms?
No, I mean the original paradigms are pretty old now. I mean, it's a great iron. I mean, I think the AI smokes were definitely. I mean, the paradigms were kind of like Callaway's first shot at the next generation of irons, right? And they're still like super expensive now. You can still get them from Callaway, and they're still like full price, even though they're like 4 years old at this point.
Yeah, I mean, I've got no. I mean, I don't think. Let's have a little look.
Yeah, I don't know when that video was, but it's got to been 2 years plus, 3 years almost.
1 mil low, 0 mil toe, middle, center. 9 heel, 3 low, heel. 15 heel, 0 low, heel. 9mm low, 0mm toe.
Dead,
So 9
dead
low.
low.
Dead
It's pretty
center
good
low.
shots. Pretty good.
14 toe, 3 low. And
Toe.
20 toe, 1 low.
I mean, that's enough for a base map.
That's enough. So I tell you what I'll do. So this is the AI smoke. Have we got that already on there?
Oh, yes. No. No? It's too many eyes now, I can't remember.
I know.
Oh, yeah, AI smoke. Yeah, we have the AI smoke.
Oh, we've got it. Okay, fair enough then.
That's not the paradigm is the previous.
The paradigm standard, just a boring paradigm.
Yeah, not the X, I imagine.
Yeah, I don't think I've got it. Hang on.
No, I don't think it. I mean, the follow-up teaser said he wants to move away from the player improvement lines, and I'm not sure the paradigm really fits into like the definition of like a game improvement category. It's like it's a lot of tech in there, but it's almost a player's distance iron, which is the same as what the 245 is.
Okay, Andy. This is the paradigm. 2023,
Okay.
February 2023. Yeah. 11 heel, 3 low.
Yeah.
Doable.
Heel, mid heel.
8 low, 2 heel.
It's doable.
Just that's center low. 10 toe, 1 high. 15mm toe, 7 low. Not ideal. But 22 toe, 3 low.
Yeah. Could probably dig
It's
something
enough
up.
for a legacy, but is not great. And then 0 and 0, 0.
It's nice to have a 0-0.
So it's doable. 201 yards carry.
Yeah.
Dear me. So we potentially could. I tell you what, for the people that care, I will put the legacy, or so for people that don't understand what I mean by legacy and new, legacy is what Andy and I call data sets that we have derived from previous videos where we've done all the shots beforehand, and from that there is enough data to create a rudimentary heat map. Now, the interesting thing what we found out from doing new data sets, what we call new, is a much, much bigger data set than the original legacy 6 shots kind of, that's all you're going to get. We're talking 36 shots, 46 shots, and seeing what the differences are. There is a marginal increase to the resolution of the heat map, but we are talking about the shape and size effectively does not change, or it changes marginally. And this was the impressive thing about the heat maps when we first started, was the realization very, very quickly that actually you don't need to hit 700 shots. If you have very good quality initial captures from the heat maps, actually they work extremely, extremely well. I will put this one in. And of course, if you are a gold tier member, you can see this before it goes live. So generally speaking, when it comes to all the irons, and there is 70 plus on the website, and there are still a couple that are disabled technically because they're waiting for videos or whether it be coming up, that as a gold member, you get to see them as soon as they get put in the database. So you kind of get early access to certain equipment. So I'll put this up, and I'll get this up there, and of course then after a certain amount of time I'll make it available to everyone, regardless of what tier you're on. But the gold, people will see it straight away.
I'm trying to understand if he's saying that they actually were the AI smokes, or whether they were the original paradigms, because he followed up saying they were maybe AI smokes.
Well, they're very distinctly different.
Yeah, one's the blue and grey, and the other one's the silver.
Yeah, it's the well, the bluey whatever. Yeah, interesting they are. Interesting golf clubs. I'd like to see the robot used outdoors. Any plans to make it mobile? So, from a question I pose, I'll get rid of this now. I'll tell you what, I'll put it over here so I don't forget. I'll minimise over there. Why from a mobile point of view for the robot?
Are you asking me?
Well, yeah. Why do you think Name Withdrawn would like to see in mobile necessarily?
To watch it hit real balls, I guess, and watch the ball fly out. I don't know.
Yeah, but that's an entertainment point of view, from a physics, learning, science, data-driven idea. What does taking outside bring?
Nothing. No, not unless you suddenly switch to TrackMan.
Yeah, which I'm not ever.
Right.
No, never. But yeah, so honestly, not a fan of the looks and the sound of the paradigms. I can understand that they are definitely power bats. Just want to move from a player improvement irons as well because it's the AI smokes. Okay, well, I can understand someone wanting to move away from a game improvement concept because again, the game improvement concepts. I play blades. Why? Because I like the feel and looks. Lucky enough, I've got enough speed. I don't necessarily have to worry about the performance side of things. If I swung even 10 mile an hour slower, it would be very difficult for me to justify having blades because of the assistance that golf clubs will give me in launch, and therefore descent angle control into a green, etc. So until I get to a certain point, and I'm lucky again, I don't mishit the middle generally speaking by a certain large enough margin to see a distinct benefit. I mean, the perfect example was, did everyone see the shot that Rory played? I can't remember what it was. I can't remember, was it on the 10th? Might have been on the 10th hole, where he hit and just dropped the club instantly. He just released the club on his backswing. And it actually hit the golf club rather than hitting like head grip and tumbling. As it landed, it kind of like done that, and it landed flat, literally, but bombing. It just bounced up in the air and come back down again, and that was released at quite some speed, so it was quite impressive. But in reality, and it was a really good shot, and it ended up must have been 5 or 6 foot from the hole. So he had a whole handoff through the club moment, and what he effectively registered there was a mistrike. He most probably registered a mistrike on the toe, and instantly from that, he thought, that's rubbish, and that's terrible, and reacted, dropped the club. When in actual fact, because of rotation, degrees per second, how it goes, the toe moves a little bit faster, he'll register a mistrike, but he'll gain a little bit from the toe as he loses a little bit, and it was fairly forgiving, we'll call it from that. In reality, the miss that he probably made may have crept into a double-digit miss. Now, for most people, if on a practice session of 50 shots and you have a single-digit miss for those 50 shots, you're a good ball striker. Like a very, very good ball striker. Very.
What's interesting about that shot that you hit, he's playing non-commercial prototype irons, which to me should be illegal. If it's not a production iron, it shouldn't be allowed on tour.
I'm on the side of, if it conforms to the rules, it can be played. But what I would like to see, exactly the same as Formula One, is the technological improvements, the innovations and the changes in technology that you see within the car industry absolutely are down to the innovations from Formula One first. And it's that kind of, it then comes down, it drags down into the everyday stuff. And so if, no different like Bryson playing 3D printed irons, etc., if that was going to then be merged into every man and woman's golf bag, I've got no issue with that whatsoever. I'm not a great fan of them only playing proprietary irons and never to be seen, because part of the fun of golf is that, yeah, you might not be as good as them. Of course, you're not as good as them, but you can play the same golf courses most of the time with the same equipment. And if you haven't got that, then there needs to be a plus side somewhere else. And if they're not, then it's lose-lose from a normal golfer's point of view. That's my view anyway.
Yeah, I don't. I'm okay with them having preview irons like a year before they actually hit the shelves, but a completely unique, one of a kind set that may never see the light of day. That just seems unrealistic to me.
If we take it to the nth extreme, and going down something as extreme as what I mean, I'm a great advocate of 3D printed anything. If you go down to the extreme realm of this and see how 3D printing can go for the average golfer who needs CG in a certain position, or a 4 handicap golfer that needs CG in a certain position, or a 20 handicap needs CG in regardless of what golfer you are, how you hit the golf, if you need super low CG, CG out the toe, CG out the heel, whatever it would be, and you can get your golf club specifically designed, built, created for your requirements. And that absolutely might be completely changing CGs within the entire range of irons. That's absolutely not going to fit any other golfer potentially on the planet, depending on what requirements you need. Then effectively they become prototypes in themselves because people could use them, but they could never actually use them.
But everybody still has access to them.
And that is the thing, access. It's an interesting topic. It is. I don't mind it if it's the innovations of what those prototypes are going to filter down into everyday golf. I don't mind. If it's not, and it's only going to be a closed doors thing, and we don't know what those prototype differences are. We don't know if it's prototype differences because of metallurgy changes, or it's a slight difference in center of gravity location, something's shaved off, because effectively this is the interesting thing, even though with pros over the years, and we are talking over the decades, that commonly pros playing golf clubs which are the same as what you buy on the shelves, but are then built differently, swing weighted differently. Lead tape was a great fan favourite for the Tour Pro at one point, whacking lead tape everywhere. And so they commonly had equipment which never could be played in the same, because obviously most golfers didn't know how they had their irons built. And so they always played slightly different, but same as the shaft thing. I mean, the tour players and those elite players have access to every single shaft under the sun. And for the Bob, the 15 handicap golfer, has access to where he goes to a Callaway fitting and what shafts the Callaway fitters got access to, where obviously the tour player's got access to every shaft on the planet. And so it differs again. And it's a really interesting debate. I could see people have a opinion on it both ways. Have you ever tested the Rogue ST Max driver?
Remember what it looks like?
Yeah. I'm trying to think if I did. I can't remember now. That's the thing. So many.
I'm getting so old. No memory left.
Well, the problem is, especially with Callaway, and I'll pick on Callaway like I'll pick on TaylorMade, no different. And a lot of the manufacturers are no different. Cobra, again, I love Cobra as a brand. Cobra are brilliant as a brand. Their irons as a, and Andy, you give me your opinion on this one, but I think if you are choosing a brand of who has across the board the best set, it would potentially have to be, it would be a boxing match between Wilson, Cobra, and potentially Mizuno. From a raw performance, forgiveness, Strixon do very well as well, but the only problem with Strixon really
I'm talking about the overall the best iron. Like which brand has the best overall?
From the range. And the only thing
complete range.
Yeah, and the only reason I won't necessarily include Strixon in there, and technically I suppose you could argue I shouldn't include Wilson in there, but they do offer more now with Dynapower Max and all the other things like that. So, and Strixon really only offer 3. You've got
that's Cobra.
But you'd have to say Cobra are on balance.
They're producing great irons, and they're pushing boundaries in every direction. They're doing everything they can to make better clubs for players. Like, I don't mean players as in good players, just anybody who plays
golfers.
Yeah,
they're driving.
Mizuno are definitely with the 925s. Really went down the right path. They did from a marketing standpoint. They said, look, let's not get into the distance wars with these. Let's make them better clubs, and they did. So hats off to that. But I also think they're segueing from one idea into another idea, and right now they're kind of in the middle of that, where everything is a bit mismatched and overlapping. But in a year or two, their lineup could be really, really good. But I mean, Cobra has just everything's so good. The gain improvement irons are so good. The dark speeds, the DS adapts are so good. The 3D printed obviously is just like revolutionary. Really? The techs this year were just a dramatic leap up over the previous years. I mean, it'd be nice to see that if a King Tour replacement comes out this year, because that could be astronomically good. Yeah, they haven't made what?
Next year.
All right. But they haven't made anything bad in a while.
No, and even if you look at the MB, CB, and Tour.
Oh yeah.
I mean the Tour, apart from the Tour being effectively slow, but that's not an issue really, because if you're the type of individual that playing the Tour, arguably you should be doing so where your swing speed dictates more than anything else. And let's face it, with the swings, the face speed argument, yes, there is a difference between the slowest face speed and the fastest face speed iron out there. Again, loft for loft adjusted, everything's adjusted, so it's a like for like comparison. There is a difference between them, but it's relatively marginal in the overall realm of speed. How much speed you gain using the fastest to the absolute slowest. And again, you'd have to do it on a percentage, I guess, because you swing faster or slower, the number will be different, but it's relatively small. It's not the overriding factor where you should be deciding which way or the other. It's just a contributing factor. The Tour is brilliant. It looks really good. It feels, for an iron which is fairly techie inspired, there's quite a lot going on in the Tour, much different to that than the Blade, and it's fairly well lofted when it comes to blending for the MB, and into the Tour. It works really, really, really well.
I mean, you could argue it's one of the few club sets that you could triple blend, right? You could. It's not just a combo; it's a triple combo. I mean, Callaway make a big deal about their CB Pro and MB being, but nobody's playing those. They're just not very standoutish. They're very expensive for what they are. $218 a club.
Yeah, this is my point. This is my problem with Callaway at the moment. Callaway. They are so good in certain areas. I mean, the sheer what you're saying for blending, just brilliant. How they look exactly the same within reason. They look within reason exactly the same. They blend exceptionally well, but they are really expensive, like really expensive. And from a reviewer's point of view, and from someone sitting on the fence, and if I look at what Callaway have done with their lineup to showcase just how good their irons can be at blending, and then you look at what Cobra, and I don't know how much they are per club, the MBCB and Tour. I know Andy's probably frantically looking now, but you compare that to what other manufacturers are doing, it is considerably different. Even if you look at Mizuno, apart from the 241, 245, where they look exactly the same within reason, just a bit fatter, the 243 looks distinctly different. You can't triple blend those, or if you did, you're looking at completely different aesthetics between the sets. Cobra, as like with Callaway, but Cobra from a price point of view are brilliant. YouTube Winnie Pops, what we got? Is he still frantically looking?
I can't find an individual color price off the top of my head.
Just divide it by whatever.
Yeah, no, just
normally 6.5 to pitching wedge normally, but they're a lot cheaper. We'll put it that way. And then I suppose you'd argue Wilson possibly second on the balance of performance and everything ability. The cost of them are relatively low as compared to the likes of the very expensive brands. Performance is exceptionally good, like really very, very good, and you can blend them very, very well. Start to get a little bit more difficult, obviously, as soon as you start going down into the Dyna Power, definitely. And they've only really got the staff and the CB to do, but I mean, it depends on what side you want to blend. But Cobra wins from a blending point of view. Absolutely, they do. And even if you were to take possibly the Tour and the Forged Tech, still probably a little bit too much of a gap in lofts. Again, they're all bendable, being forged, etc. But there's not a huge difference in looks between the Tour and the Forged Tech or King.
Yeah, you could definitely kind of see you could even triple blend those CB scoring irons, Tour mid irons, and then the Tech, 5.4 iron, and
more and more people should be comboing the Tech and Tech X. The Tech X is a great golf club.
Even the lofts are strong when you're talking about people struggling with ball speed at the long irons. I mean, the Tech X launch is so much higher than its stated loft that you negate the loft difference.
It's really good.
But,
really very, very good. But there you go. Ryan says the Callaway Pro is 170, so effectively $50. Is it dollars?
Yeah, dollars.
Yeah, so $50 less per stick. That's a lot. Ryan says the Callaway Pro and CB looks amazing. Just didn't care for the feel against my i230. i230s, now considering these are cast, and they are urethane filled cast lovelies, the i230s. They've got, is it a urethane or is it a elastomer? Is it elastomer?
Either way, it kind of blows the whole you need forged theory out the window of the i230, doesn't it? It's kind of why are you so caught up on forged when the i230 exists?
The i200 I quite enjoyed. The i210 came out, and it was like, yeah, these I'm really struggling. I dislike these. Like, they're supposed to be pings, and I'm really struggling to dislike these. These are really well, decently lofted irons. They spin the golf ball really well. They just feel lovely, and they're fairly forgiving as well. The i230s come out, and it's like, oh my giddy aunt, what have you done, Ping? It's just even better, and it feels just as good. And I'm now, because again, the more you do the heat map things and the more irons go in the database, and you start comparing other ones, and all other manufacturers bring out their versions, and they're either not as good or slightly better, but you still see the top ones. They're not, as the irons come out, they're not all shifting down, the new ones going up to the top, and the ones that are really good a year or two ago are now starting to go down. They're still up there. And so I'm worried, because Ping, to answer Eero's question a little bit earlier on, and he did say something about oh, what was it? Oh yeah, so besides the Mizuno S, something we can talk about, blah, blah, blah. Any surprise, mid-season surprise leaking soon, right, okay. So the i250, or whatever it's going to be called, is due this year at one point. Although Ping have not committed to it being a September launch. It could well be a February, March launch, dependent on many, many other things. But the i230 is due for replacement, and I'm already fairly apprehensive about that because the i230 is just so blooming good. And we've seen already in certain things how manufacturers have renewed an iron which is already very, very good, not always necessarily to its benefit, depending on what metric you're measuring it on. I was thinking Andy was going to pop up there and shout an example, but glad.
No, we know what it is.
So, you're looking at Ping with the i230, obviously i530. I don't know.
I don't know why they keep chasing that.
Yeah, we've got Titleist will be dropping something very soon when it comes to July, August with the new ones. And again, I will try and email them again because they won't take a phone call. Titleist do not take phone calls to their marketing department at all. Only ever done through electronic purposes. You cannot talk to anybody in Titleist marketing. This is why I'm struggling trying to get anyone to respond. But I will try again. And if not, I will have to potentially look at ways that I can procure them for myself. It's quite an expensive thing. Yes. Bearing in mind the cost of one iron is similar to what the video makes from its entire lifespan. So it's very difficult to justify doing. But I think from a balance from the website, I think Andy may agree, that from getting Titleist in there, one way or another, regardless of what the cost will be, I think it's important for the website to remain completely and utterly balanced and having every single major manufacturer in there.
Yeah, it's a shame they're not there. I mean, we don't comment about whether they're good or bad because we have no baseline to comment on whether they're good or bad, but, we know they're not the bottom of the barrel. It'd just be nice to know where they are stacked up.
We don't know. They might be the top of the barrel. They might be the bottom of the barrel. We don't know, and this is the problem. I feel worse from a point of view that I cannot recommend anyone buy anything Titleist iron-wise on the basis that we haven't tested it. We haven't put it through the heat map tech to see how good on the advanced data. We don't know how well it launches, how it spins the ball, the face speed of it. We don't know its forgiveness. And it may well be the best iron that we've ever tested. It might be the best set of irons that we've ever tested. It might go straight to number one. Being completely, and again, I suppose from someone sitting on the fence point of view, everyone has known my opinion on Titleist for I don't know how long. The fact that they do not respond and how effectively rude they are not doing so, from my point of view. And you could quite easily understand if it was a completely subjective review and had nothing to do with the quad and nothing to do with that whatsoever, that I would just give them a bad review. I don't. At the end of the day, I have my own opinion when it comes to its looks and feel, and I'll say that on camera, but that's subjectivity, so ignore every single thing I say about that, because again, that's my opinion and nothing about the performance of the golf club. But the physical performance of the golf club, that's what the quad does, and that's what the heat map tech does, and it may well be the best irons out there. Problem is, I can't say they are, or they're not, because we haven't tested it.
Yeah,
It's
I
that
mean, like you
that
said, now
that emotion.
it would never, from a video standpoint, it would never really justify itself, to actually buy them to test, just to test them. But the website
Okay.
does offer more possibilities now.
Yes. So if we're looking at, so even now, they are going to be discounted now slightly anyway, because obviously they're at the end of their life cycle. But I'm assuming you're still talking it's going to be a couple of $100 per iron. Absolutely, for the player's distance side, absolutely, if not more. And when they go brand new, they are going to be the most expensive they're ever going to be, and it's going to be expensive buying them. I think from a channel's point of view, I think from a YouTuber's point of view, and taking into account the website as well as a balance, that even though from a YouTube business decision, it makes no sense whatsoever to physically purchase them myself, I think from a balance, try and get the balance of them into the website as well. I think it's important that I do it. So, GoFundMe page will soon be starting on. Yeah, but there you go. So, any other chat questions that we have not picked up? We're pretty good that we've actually managed to keep on.
I think everybody tuned out after the first
when I
30
started
minutes.
talking.
Yeah, well, they can't listen to us for more than 30 minutes.
Yeah, well, I can't listen to myself more than 30 minutes. I do a reset every 30 minutes or so. This fly, it's been driving me mental for the last 2 days. Anyone Google how long a fly lasts?
I don't think it's 2 days.
It's not eating anything. There's nothing in here to eat. And the little rat bag, it's one of these mutant things that lasts for weeks. No, we're all good, I think. Freddie Couples is playing pings. Those are acceptable fugly irons. He is playing, isn't he now playing in his bag, more clubs with covers than none. Did I hear that right, Andy?
Yeah, I think he is. Most of them are covers.
Yeah, has he got 6 hybrid now?
Yeah, I mean, it like I said, with the whole DS Max scenario,
Oh yeah.
The hybrid is kind of like, it was good as when it first started, it was a big solve to certain problems, but I think it has its own drawbacks with the shaft length and people struggling with the weighting of them, because they tend to come in lightweight shafts, which means the swing weights tend to be a little different. But you probably play a DS Adapt Max long iron better than some people might than a hybrid.
Oh, the DS Adapt Max, the Max that video frustrated me a little bit. I must admit it did, because. From my point of view as a YouTuber, then you have to understand that certain videos, all videos, there is no rhyme or reason, there is no sense to it at all, how the algorithm does its thing, and some go crazy and some do nothing. But from a coach and custom fitting point of view, from a human who wants to try and get as much useful information out there for you guys to know, usable information, not marketing stuff, actual information that you could actually use to play better golf with the equipment you can get. The DS Max video, I really wished went crazy, because it is one of the really brilliantly performing irons out there. Yes, it's fugly. It is ugly. But every golfer has a potential use for at least one of them in the bag, as a long iron, direct line on replacement, whatever it be, or a full set of them. They are brilliant.
Yeah, I mean, the 4 irons at 21 and the 5 irons at 23, they're pretty traditionally lofted, yet super, super, super effective.
They're great, but no one cares.
Yeah.
Which is just, yep, there you go. Name Withdrawn says, I ordered McGregor MT milled forged players irons recently. We'll let you know how I like them. Good, definitely do. Looking forward to that one. Discord. Anyone who is watching is not already on Discord, pop on Discord, and then also, and if you could do me a very, very quick favor and very, very quickly explain the link me command thing in Discord for the website permissions.
Yeah, so because of the amount of users going to the website now and the amount of users in Discord, we've just keeping up with everybody and what access they have and or don't have. We've decided to automate the process for us and for you, so you don't have to wait on us to give you permissions. You just get it yourself. You just type /link me and hit enter. A little box pops up for your website username and password. You enter those two things, and then it'll link your Discord to our website, and then it'll give you permissions.
There you go.
Whatever website subscription level you have, you'll get the matching Discord permissions.
There you go. Easy as that. And I just say
anyway, it was some teething problems with it right off the bat, but I think they're all resolved now. It's been up and running for I think a couple of days in a row.
It was so poor timing because the bot started, and yeah, the bot had a couple of brain farts, like as it will do, no problem. And then Discord had a massive outage, didn't it? And it coincided with the bot not doing as it was told, and it was like, oh my word, this looming bot is driving me insane, and he's got nothing to do with the bot. It's Discord completely, because I think it was you and I were. I think we were on the phone when we talked about Swing Robot and stuff, and then suddenly that was it, gone. By Discord. Bye. And it took about 15, 20 minutes to come back. And so, but after that, it's been really good. It's been fine. It's behaving itself. Jose says, are LA Golf A-Series shafts any good?
Yes. No. Maybe.
There you go. I answered that one. All comes down to the fit. If they fit you, then absolutely. If they don't fit you, then no. You can have the most expensive shaft in the world if you want, but if it doesn't suit how you load, it's a waste of money.
There are no bad shafts made. Like, the people don't make garbage. They're all functional at some degree. Some of the trick is knowing if the X premium shaft is an identical profile that's a cheaper version of it. That's where the fun comes in, whether you can get the expensive profile for a fraction of the price. Like,
well, hickory suited some people. So
until you snap them. I think most modern players would snap hickory shafts.
I know, it'd be interesting to see how I would offend a hickory shaft. I don't think it would make any difference.
Yeah, no, everybody offends hickory shafts. Hickory shafts aren't always straight to begin with, so.
Yeah, that's true. Very, very good point. Right, guys, thank you very much for watching. As always, appreciate everyone's comments, questions, and getting involved in the chat. I am currently working on the Cobra DS Adapt driver videos in between, sorting out this mess down here. Good news for me, though. Wednesday.
You pointed to me then?
Say again?
You pointed to me when you said that?
That mess.
This mess down here?
No, that mess, which the camera cannot see, and thank God for that. For fun, I think what I will do is I will give all my SS25 Mizuno stuff to the wife. And so she can do the obligatory post-it note things, and next time...
Ugly.
Yeah, and she can write all of the nasty things that she likes to write on my clothes, because she doesn't like them. Or she likes this one. There you go. And then...
Well, she has to put your name in them all anyway.
Say again?
She has to put your name in them all anyway, on your label.
Oh, yeah. She does that with little ones, but obviously going to school and stuff, but yeah. Yay, post-it notes from the wife, yes. I'll be there next week, absolutely. It is a fun time when you get post-it notes. Anyone for darts or something now? Or what was the favourite one from last year? Was it better, more effective than Durex or something? So, yeah. But yeah, that will come next year or not, as the thing. And we will then, on Wednesday is the fabrication day, potentially, because Wednesday, I hope to get all the framework, all the aluminium extrusion and all the gubbings are hopefully coming, and I can then start putting it all together. Lucky enough, if I need bolts and stuff like that, I've got a local place that just does loads and loads of bolts and that lot, so that shouldn't be a problem if I haven't ordered enough of everything. And knowing me, I am someone who likes to order the precise amount until I haven't accounted for something. I can then order precisely zero the amount that I need, but easily fixed. So it will be an interesting day on Wednesday to see if I can get anything up. And I'm only waiting on one more thing now from America, and a aluminium plate so I can make the Z-lift side of things, the T bit that does that. But yeah, later on. Thanks very much, Andy. Appreciate your time as always.
Say goodbye, Andy.
Yeah, say goodbye, Andy. Right. Thanks so much for your comments and questions. Thank you for your time as always, everyone. And we will catch everyone again next week for episode 6.
6. Wow.
Time flies when you're having fun. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.